When I talk to free software people, they don't feel very comfortable with Android because of it is an open source project, but it's developed in a closed manner. I was talking to Eric Raymond, and he said that it's more or less like a gated community, though he's fine with the gated community as well as the open source community. So can you explain a bit why it's okay to have a gated community?
I don't really care what people call it. When you look at a community of developers in an open source project, the question you want to ask yourself is who's writing the code and why. That will inform you as to who you should be catering to. So for instance, we get most of our code either written at Google or from chipset and handset manufacturers. We get very little code from carriers, and we get patches here and there from the outside world. Now, so we cater to those chipset and handset manufacturer communities, and we try to ensure that they are incentivized to continue to work with Android. So then the answer is, well, if you were more open to everybody, you would get more non-chipset and handset manufacturer patches, and that might be true. And there's a very exciting mod community of Android who, for instance, will port Android open source project back into older phones that the manufacturers are not interested in doing anymore, and the rest. But for the people who are enthusiasts, we've found that a lot of their creativity happens at the app level, and that's hardly been impacted by the model. So that's good. But there are going to be some people who want to ship, for instance, Android onto alternative platforms that it was not targeted to by a manufacturer. And they have a harder time of it because it can be very difficult to come across open source drivers for a non-Android platform device. So like if it's a QNX device or a Windows Mobile device, manufacturers won't always provide drivers to you. And so we actually have ongoing discussions all the time on how to get those drivers open sourced into the mainstream kernel as it is. And this is a long, long discussion. So yeah, so it might be gated community, but what we tried to do is make sure the gated community was as large as possible so that we could keep the operating system moving forward. And I of course think we've been successful with this, but it does feel exclusionary to say the modding community sometimes, and that's too bad. Yeah.